All right, today we're jumping right into the fundamental geography of Iran. And this isn't just any landscape. We're talking about a place of such incredible extremes that it has literally shaped the course of history. We're going to see how these huge mountains, massive deserts, and these critical rivers all come together to create this really unique and formidable stage for civilization.
So, where are we getting this from? Our guide for this whole thing is a chapter all about the geographical shape of the Iranian plateau. Think of it as the blueprint. It's laying out the physical stage where thousands of years of history played out. It really shows off the region's just incredible natural architecture. So, let's start with a really cool idea. Imagine a country that's built like a natural fortress. What kind of secrets would it hold inside those walls? And honestly, that's the perfect way to think about Iran's geography. This isn't just a random piece of land. It's this huge, high-up landmass, almost completely walled in by these giant natural barriers. So you have to ask, what does that do to the world inside? Okay, so let's start with the very foundation of this natural fortress. The main thing to get is that, at its core, the entire country is basically one giant high-altitude plateau. It's almost like a citadel in the sky, just lifted way, way above all its neighbors.
And when I say high, I mean high. The average elevation here is a whopping 1,200 meters. That's almost 4,000 feet. To give you some perspective, right? If you're standing in a city like Tabriz or Mashhad, you are already higher up than the tallest skyscrapers on the planet are tall. It's a high altitude world.
And look, this elevation, it's probably the single most important thing to grasp here. It's the key that unlocks everything else about the landscape. It controls the climate, the water, even the very spots where people could build cities and civilizations. It all comes back to being so high up. All right, so if the plateau is the fortress, what about the walls?
Well, there are two enormous mountain ranges that basically wrap around this high plateau. They act like these massive, natural barriers that have been guarding the inside for, well, forever.
And these aren't just little hills, okay? They're serious barriers. Up in the north, you've got the Alborz Mountains. They rise up and completely seal off the plateau from the Caspian Sea. Then, over on the west and south, you've got the mighty Zagros Mountains. This is a huge, rugged chain that's pretty much always been a natural border. And then, to complete the picture, you've got another set of mountains rising up in the east. They're a bit more broken up, but they do the job. And just like that, the fortress is complete. The whole central plateau is effectively boxed in. This enclosure, being walled in, it's one of the most defining things about the region. It created this totally unique and often very isolated world inside. So you've got this giant fortress. What's inside? You might be thinking it's some kind of lush, protected valley, right? Nope. What you actually find is this huge, dry interior that's pretty much dominated by two massive deserts. Right in the heart of the plateau, you've got the Dashti Kavir, that translates to the Great Salt Desert. And when you picture a desert, don't think of rolling sand dunes. This is something else entirely. It's a massive, desolate wasteland of dangerous salt marshes and cracked mud. It's honestly one of the most barren places you can even imagine. And right next door is its twin, the Kavir Elut. And this place, well, it holds the record for the hottest land surface temperature ever recorded. So you put these two together, these two huge wastelands, and you've got one of the most extreme, most inhospitable regions on the face of the earth. No exaggeration. Okay, so it sounds pretty bleak, right? But it's not all just barren desert. There are these crucial sources of water that cut through the landscape. And these rivers and lakes, they are the absolute lifeblood of the plateau. They're the reason people could live there at all. What's really interesting is that the rivers here have like two different destinies. You have the really powerful ones like the Karun and the Aras that are strong enough to actually punch through the mountain walls and make it all the way out to the Persian Gulf or the Caspian Sea. But then, a lot of the other rivers flow inward. They become these precious lifelines for the interior, creating these little pockets of life, these fertile oases, before they just disappear into inland swamps and lakes. And it's not just the rivers either. You've got these huge bodies of water, like Lake Ormia. It's a really critical feature up in that high-altitude landscape. In fact, it's one of the biggest saltwater lakes in the world, just this massive splash of blue in the middle of all that rugged terrain up in the northwest. Okay, so let's put all the pieces together. You've got the high plateau, you've got the giant mountains walling it in, and you've got that basin in the middle. When you mix all that up, what you get is some of the most dramatic, most extreme climate contrasts you can possibly imagine.
So, as we've already seen, the inside of the country is incredibly dry, right? Those mountain walls are doing their job, blocking out moisture from every direction. It leaves that huge central plateau just locked in this super dry state. But that's only half the story. Because if you hop over to the other side of that northern mountain wall, you find a completely different world. The coast along the Caspian Sea in provinces like Gilan and Mazandaran, it's a land of heavy rain, lush green jungles, and even rice paddies. It's night and day. And this right here, this is the key to the whole thing. It's called the rain shadow effect. It's pretty simple, actually. The Elburz Mountains act like this giant wall. They catch all the wet air that comes rolling in from the Caspian Sea. All that moisture has to go somewhere, so it gets dumped as rain on the northern side of the mountains. That creates a green paradise. But the other side, the southern side, where the huge plateau is, it gets nothing. It's left in a permanent dry shadow. So when you zoom out, what you really have is this powerful story of isolation and survival. The geography of Iran is all about these immense natural walls that box everything in, that protect it. And at the same time, it's about these vital lifelines, these rivers and lakes that make life possible in what is one of the toughest environments on Earth. And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about, doesn't it? If this is the stage, this natural fortress full of deserts and mountains, but with these little pockets of life, how on earth did that dramatic geography shape the incredible, long story of the civilization that grew up inside those walls?